So, as you can tell by the title, what we're going to be doing today. I have a tier list of all of our bosses in Lies of P. Now, I don't necessarily have this list being the hardest to the easiest. It's our most memorable to the least memorable. First things first, Black Cat. We never fought him, so we're going to put him down here at the end. And I'm going to actually go ahead and move the fox there too, because she was also one we never fought. I kind of wish that we did fight the Black Cat though, because his arena looked so cool. That room you walk into, I think his arena was the largest. So I kind of wish we got the chance to fight him. And then the fox is the same case. I don't know how we would have fought her. Would we have fought her just in that hallway? Like, I'm excited to go back and find out, because that would have been a pain to have to fight her like that. Let's do it a bit of an order here. Let's not do this one yet. I'm going to move it over because it wouldn't do it justice. So first up in the actual fights are the Eldest Black Rabbit Brotherhood. Or the Eldest of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. This one. He was hard. That one was very, very painful for me. We're going to put it here in a B. Because it was our first fight where we had to fight multiple targets at the same time. It's one that took me well over my normal amount of attempts to beat. And it had me questioning if I had the right strategies down. Obviously I didn't, because it kept getting me killed. I like their designs though a lot. Next up is Victor. Anybody remember that fight? This one? It was not very memorable. I'm actually going to put him down here in an F. Not only was it not very fun, it didn't bring much to the table in terms of story either. Like, I get that he was a pro wrestler or whatever at the time, and he was brought back and for the exhibition. I get why they did it. They were introducing the fact that they could make an immortal or try to. Not memorable anyway. I didn't like him. Along with him, I'm also just going to go ahead and do this one. The Door Guardian. The Door Guardian I thought was Victor. I'm going to put it in an F too. Just like Victor, their moves were very easy to predict. In the Guardian's case, he was a gimmick boss, which is nice. It was our first real gimmick boss in the game. The only gimmick boss in the game. I mean, you could pepper him down. He had so much health. It just felt like the Door Guardian was just that. It was just a extra health bar in front of a door so you can move on through the game. He didn't leave any lasting impressions. However, the next one did. Might not have for everyone else, but for me, oh boy. Corrupted Parade Master. This one hurt me. Oh, it hurt me so bad. It wasn't necessarily difficult, it's just I could not get the moves down. I'm gonna put it at a C, and I'll explain why. So, it wasn't as cool, personally, as the actual Parade Master was. Whenever it would attack, it would have that little delay, that lag between each motion that it would do. And I feel like the purpose of that was, hey look, it's corrupted, therefore it's going to be sporadic. But it didn't make it fun. I like the fights that make it feel like you're dancing with your opponent. You're exchanging blows, you're moving around, it's like a dance. There's something to it, there's a rhythm to it. And that had none of that. I would try to trigger it to do certain moves and repeat certain sets. And it's like it would just do random ones instead. It was very difficult to learn for me. But it didn't stand out much. It was, again, one of those ones that just happened to be in the way until you can move on. Next is our Fallen Archbishop. Probably one of the coolest animations. Like the opening animation of it, the transformations. I really liked him. I wish we got his mask. I don't know why they focused so much on the mask whenever we never got the chance to really get a good look at it or use it in any sort of way. Like maybe it was an ode to some lore I need to go back and check up on, but I'm gonna put it at an A. I liked the music throughout it. I liked the fact that it was technically two bosses in one. It had his little front froggy side and then it had his little reaper tail. All in all though, his fight wasn't very difficult once you learned that I just need to get right up on them and stay on them, for the most part. I mean, I did cheese a lot of the fights, not gonna lie. Next up is the Black Rabbit Brotherhood, the second fight. I'm also going to put it in here in B. It didn't take me near as long as the first one did. That's the one that we learned how to use our dragon sword. It made the fight so interesting. Once I finished that fight and we went over and we spoke with our good boy, it was already out of sight, out of mind. It didn't really stick much. They had more finesse to them than the corrupted puppet did. The corrupted, what's-his-face, the corrupted parade puppet. But not quite enough to get up here into A for me. Next, Green Monster the Swamp, the first phase. Very easy, and I forget that it exists sometimes, so I am actually going to put it here in C as well. Basic. It was very simple. It's second phase, so the Devouring Green Monster. Whenever he goes all hermit crab on us, this one. I'm actually going to put it up higher. I liked that fight more because I liked his concept. I liked his design. Mr. Hermit Crab. It took over the body of our scrapped Watchman from earlier in the game, or at least one of them, and it turned into this like psycho, which was a fun fight. About Brotherhood level. B. Oh, next one. Walker of Illusions. Do you guys remember her? This one took me so long. I think this is one of the first ones that took forever for me after the Brotherhood did. I'm actually gonna put her up here as an A because it stuck with me. It was one of the ones that taught me how to use our shield, like our arm. I had to leave and actually go upgrade the thing just for this fight so I could learn how the heck to fight it. I had to switch up my entire method of fighting. Whenever she splits, oh, my heart sunk. It was so hard. King of Puppets. This guy. Absolutely S. As huge as he was, it kind of got in the way of the camera, and it was a little distracting, but his design and his little stretchy arms was really cool. And as everyone knows, plot-wise, I have to keep him up there. Because, actually, while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and move Romeo. Romeo is also S. I have to put them together because their whole fight is really... The way it fits together is unlike any of the others in the game. Because in this case, it started out with our King of Puppets, where he was really slow and bulky and huge, and so you had to dodge away from the stuff. You had to mostly just move out of the way of his attacks. Was his. It was keep your distance, come in and pepper him when you can, and then keep your distance. He then opens up and shows Romeo, which is my favorite reveal in this game. It gave me goosebumps. It was so fun. Whenever he steps out, the fight style, like the way you have to look at the game, or the way you have to look at the fight, changes drastically. It's no longer stepping back and waiting for his moves to end so you can walk in and pepper him. There's no big hulking moves to leave on. You can't really get much distance. It's all up close and personal and quick. It's a lot of blocking and a lot of dodging, or in my case, a lot of throwing. And it really stuck with me. I would be committing a sin if I put him any lower than S. On the opposite end of this, though, we have King's Flame, the one from the factory. Does anyone else remember that fight? Because I don't. F. Looking back at it, the shovel enemies, the little thumpy ones, these guys, were so much harder than he was. So you just kind of walked in, you beat him, and you moved on. There wasn't much of a lasting impression. Alright, next up, I'm going to switch up the little order a little bit. The Atoned. Did not stick with me. F. It took me, I think, 2 attempts or so, give or take, maybe 3, where we were going up to the trolley, and she stopped us and basically said, "Prove yourself," and so we did, by slaughtering her. And then we got in the trolley, got up to the top, and then quickly forgot she existed. And that's really all that there was to that fight. Next up, however, is Laxasia, our lightning lady. You guys remember her? With the huge sword. I'm going to put her up here with S. I think almost everyone else will too. She wasn't the most difficult fight for me. She was just so much fun. In most games, if you throw a character or a fight like that at us out of the blue after everything else throughout the whole game that we've been doing, it would seem so left field, like so out of the blue. Because everything else, relatively up to this point, made sense. You know, there was no magic involved. It was all mutations and science, and you went, okay, the soul, that's cool, that makes sense. And then she comes in, and she at one point, like, literally takes to the sky. Like, she becomes a little Tesla coil of a lady. For some reason, I didn't question it. It's crazy. Because in any other game, it would have made no sense. I've been like, where the heck do you mean we now have wizards? Her fight was fantastic. I think the whole time I was fighting her, I was more crushing on her than anything else. She was the kind of fight that I love the most. The kinds where you're dancing. The ones where your dodges and your hits, you're exchanging blows. And you can learn each other's moves, and it's quickly and in the moment. That's all I gotta say there. Mad Clown Puppet. I'm going to set that as a C. It wasn't so much difficult as it was just an annoyance, a hindrance. Once you learn how to block him or dodge out of his way, his moves are really predictable. And then once you learn those, that's it, he's done. You can just move on. Or in my case, you just chuck things at him. Next is the Mad Donkey. F, because I forgot he was in here. He was the first time that we went, oh wait, there's blood. Because we had that moment where we were looking at our hands like, red stuff? So it had a lasting impression on him, but not on me. And that's all I'm going to say about him. He really didn't stand out. It was just an introduction to those types of fights, I think, and then you moved on. Nameless Puppet. My favorite fight, I think. He's got to be everyone's favorite fight in this game, right? Like, his story and how he connects to everything, he has to be S. Is there anyone who doesn't keep him up here in S? His reveal gave me goosebumps. I love both of the phases and how they, without saying anything and without drawing obvious attention to it, explained exactly what was happening and where he was in the plot. Like, what was going on. So whenever his strings were blue and he was under the control of our father, his attacks were more methodical. They didn't have as much oomph to them. And that's because they were trying to knock us down but not exactly kill us. They were just trying to beat us down until we changed our minds. Which you could. You literally could. If you wanted to play it that way, you could play until you can't take him on anymore and you can still surrender. And then our father would get exactly as what he was intending. But the way that we played it, we ended up getting into that second phase. You slice through his face, but in doing so, you actually cut those strings as well, those ties that he had. Not only is he no longer under the control of our father, Geppetto, but Geppetto's dialogue changes too. And it's no longer about how we as P, our character, betrayed him. It was also about losing control of the current puppet. And then we get to see what this puppet really is. So without our father trying to save us, like keep us preserved. Preserved is the best word I have for it. The puppet is just running on that pure hate, as we learned in that amulet. It's just running on its need to kill. And I loved that. That you can see that. The game doesn't have to sit there and be like, hold your hand and tell you what it means. You could see it just by how once the ties are cut, it just goes ham. It starts breaking on everything. The fire, the red aura around the weapons and attacks. You just know it's lost its mind. Like it's holding nothing back. And it feels almost like feral. Every move that it makes feels sporadic in a good way. You don't know exactly what move it's going to do next because in a sense, it doesn't either. It just wants you dead. And that's all that it knows. And it'll do everything it possibly can to accomplish that. I know I'm rambling a lot about that one, but that is my favorite fight. It had so much story to it without having to say a single word for the most part. Well, not many words. So yes, Nameless Puppet is absolutely S tier. Next is the Owl Doctor. Completely different change of pace. I'm actually going to make him a C. His fight took place in the basement basically of a house, like a little rectangle with a pillar in the center. That pillar and the walls around him caused more trouble for me than he did. After the first one, the rat, They were all relatively simple. It was just hold off their stuff, harass them till they show their back and stab, and then move on. Like what we're going to do. Next up is the Parade Master, the original one. I'm actually going to put up here in B. Whenever I think back to Liza P and playing it, he's not one of the first bosses that come to mind. He was a really cool introduction to the game. He was our first real boss. And I liked his design. I liked how he looked very much like a nutcracker, is the best way I can say it. He was a really cool and good introduction to the game. Next, Puppet of the Future was disappointing. This fight was very disappointing. I'm gonna make it an F. I had so much hope going in. We walked down that one hallway and take a left, and looking over the bridge, you see this huge thing. It was terrifying. Then you get to it, and you realize that all you have to do is stand back, wait for him to do a little spinny attack, and just beat on his feet. And if he stomps, you roll out of the way, and if he puts his foot back down, you beat on it. So he has like 3 moves. So he does a little dance, he does a little spin, or he gives the ground a high five. And then once that's done, that's it. That's pretty much all of his moves. Next up, Robber Weasel, F. I think I took them out on my second attempt because I didn't have health or anything the first time. They are very much like all the other survivors at that point, where you poke and pester them until you can stab them in the back, and then you move on. Moving on. Scrapped Watchman. Before he became a hermit crab. I will actually put as a B. It made you go, hold up, if this is the second boss, like the first real boss, what's actually in store for me in this game? And so it was a really good opener, I would say. And he also chucked my Spectre around a bunch, which was really funny. Simon. Oh, fun fight. I'm gonna put that one as an A. He was one of those bosses that had a really cool transition between his phases. His scene was very much unlike the other ones. Obviously, because he hatches. Because the first stage, you're seeing his health go down so quickly. And you're just thinking, okay, what's the next phase going to bring me? And then it answers the question with lots of pain. His moves they're just big and sweeping, and I'm not good at those kind of fights. I'm not good at big sweeping bosses. Moving on. Survivor. You guys remember this one? It took me so many attempts, and it was ridiculous and embarrassing. But he's gonna be a B because of that. I don't think I ever landed a backstab on him. But his moves were all over the place. He was fast, and he was a change of pace compared to all the others in that area. But he's up there because he was a very good introduction to that type of boss. Lastly is our white lady. I'm gonna put her as an A. She was, I think, one of the first fights that gave me what I wanted. You were exchanging blows, dancing around a literal stage. She's in costume. We looked pretty cool at the time too, if I don't say so myself. And then her story too, how it fit in. Her and her sister. As you just discover stuff as you go along. So, there's our list, I think, of all of our bosses. From the ones that we like the most to the ones that we barely remember were even in the game. If you feel like making a list yourself, if you could share it with me, that would be fantastic. I'll leave the link down in the description for you. And if you do it, tag me in it on Twitter, make your own video of it, however you feel like getting it to me if you make one. Or let me know if any of them make absolutely no sense on why they're so low or why they're so high. Debate me. It'd be fun. I know this video is an absolute change of pace than the normal. I don't know, I just couldn't help myself.